Hey everybody, Mike Miller with the Herald Times, joined by my color man, Jeremy Price, coming to you live from Assembly Hall. Um, they left their headsets here on the television table here at courtside, so we decided to put them on. Live the dream, basically.
It's the closest thing to earmuffs we could find tonight, and it was an earmuffs kind of night for Indiana.
I should really just take these and turn them into blinders somehow, or that's the most ridiculous saying. Are we doing this?
I don't know.
Are we sticking? I can't hear you, so I think it's not.
All right, fine.
Just want to hit the cough button numerous times. Yeah, that was a disaster.
Yeah, pretty much.
90-69, Indiana State comes in here and just worked Indiana, basically, here in the debut for Archie Miller as head coach. Hoosiers off to an 0-1 start, get Howard here on Sunday night, which I guess from after this game, it's probably pretty nice that Indiana has a bounce-back opportunity just less than 48 hours from now. Jeremy, a couple takeaways from this. The defense is still very much a work in progress, never mind some of the encouraging signs we saw in the exhibition season. And the offense is just as flawed as we probably imagined it probably could be.
Well, bad news, folks. You cannot wave a magic wand and change these players to something they're not, and it's going to take some time, clearly. This is an Indiana team that basically reverted to all the bad habits, all the old traits that we were so familiar with from the past, and boom, it just went right back there again. Just not tough enough, not aggressive enough, not smart enough defensively, I guess. Clearly there was communication issues, breakdowns, things like that. I mean, they're all things you would expect to be a work in progress. It's just that they all sort of hit disastrous levels in this first game, and you combine that with the fact that Indiana State was just like out of their minds shooting the three tonight. 17 of 25, I think it wound up, and most of the night it was
26,
better percentage than that, frankly. And
at one point they were shooting 80%. I mean, this was deep in the first half.
Yes. And, I mean, of all the ways you thought this might go tonight, I didn't necessarily think this was a given that Indiana was going to win this game, but I sure didn't see them getting waxed by Indiana State like they did tonight.
I really like this as a non-conference opponent, maybe even so as an opening opponent. I think Indiana State's a quality program. I think they're going to give you it's a roster full of Indiana guys. They're going to the Fort Wayne native came in here and she was, like you said, just lights out. It was a good opponent, and yeah, I mean, it was just from the very. I mean, Indiana was never in this game, not once, not ever. I mean, they had a 1 point lead at one point, but from the tip through the final buzzer, this was all Indiana State. And
it was all downhill from 4-3, basically.
Yeah,
I think that was
something
it.
like that. It was I think so, very much so. This was like you said, just kind of illustrated the flaws we all knew were there. I mean, again, this is Tom Crean's roster. This is a roster that I think resembled a lot of parts, useful parts, but not necessarily parts that really fit together. And so this is kind of the season-long question. What do you make of this roster? What can you get out of these parts, and how if at all can you get them to fit and work in cohesion?
Well, I think the thing is right now you look at it and De'Ron Davis is kind of the closest thing to a go-to guy you've got really on this team. When the offense went through him, good things tended to happen. When it didn't, it was pretty much mishmash, fend for yourself. I think there were some good moments as the game went on. I thought Juwan Morgan settled in, did a little more out of the post. When Juwan Morgan's firing up threes, not so great. When Juwan Morgan's in the post, much better. So I think those two guys, playing through the post through those two guys is kind of the positive. But you don't have that go-to guy. You don't have James Blackman, OG Anunoby, Thomas Bryant. For all the things that you can nitpick and like and not like about those guys, those were kind of go-to guys that you could play through in any given situation, and then other guys could play off of. Right now, outside of De'Ron Davis and maybe to a smaller extent Juwan Morgan, still a work in progress, you don't have that right now. And, you look at the preseason, you look at the exhibition games, you think, Devontae Green looks pretty good. He's going to be a key for this team, and he's basically nowhere to be found tonight.
Really careless passes, too, at times, too, for a guy who obviously struggled with turnovers last year. It's kind of his game right now as a youngster trying to find himself. I mean, it's very high risk and high reward at times with his approach, but just way too careless for my taste today. And it kind of sounds, if you read between the lines with Archie Miller after the game, it kind of sounds like there might be a little bit of a shakeup with that lineup on Sunday night. But I will say that it was refreshingly honest post-game assessment from Archie Miller. If you have time, I think we'll have the video up on the scoop. in the video section where you can watch his full comments after the game tonight. I mean, he just laid it out there. Basically said, I mean, he cut a reporter off at one point basically and just said, we're soft. We're just a soft team. And that's probably Indiana's biggest problem right now.
Yeah, it is definitely the biggest problem. And, you talked about the lineup, and, he's saying, well, who's going to start? How are we going to start? We're just not mentally tough enough to start games. At the start of the game, the other thing he pointed out really was that start of the second half, the time when if you're the home team, you've made some of your adjustments, you've kind of got the troops fired up, you're ready to go, you're supposed to come out in that second half. That's your chance to get that little run put together, maybe get down to a manageable 14, 15-point game from 21 down at half. And instead, Indiana comes out and it's bombs away for Indiana State again, a couple of threes. Next thing you know, you're down 30, and the air is completely out of the balloon. So just so many things to look at from a toughness standpoint, a mental toughness standpoint, and a lot of work to do. And this is one, I agree with you that Indiana State's a good opponent for Indiana. It's a game I'd like to see become a regular thing every year. I don't know about it for an opener. It's a pretty rough way to open the season. And maybe flip that around, have Howard first and then Indiana State.
Yeah.
I think things would be at least a little bit better.
I think even Archie mentioned that on his radio shows the other night, saying this is not the best opener I've scheduled. But, at the time, when they came in here with putting that schedule together, they were kind of up against it. They had to find this was really one of the few teams that they felt comfortable with a common date where they could get them in here early and get this game off the ground. So, I like him as an opponent, but yeah, you're right. Probably not the best team you want to come out and test your legs against. Did you mention in your column, Jerome Hunter was here. He's on his official visit this weekend.
Yes,
I think
yes.
At one point he was tweeting about what?
He was tweeting about Little Debbie, and they're debating on which snack they should retire. They had a cryptic tweet, intimating that they might pick one from your Christmas tree cakes, your Nutty Buddies, your oatmeal cream pies, and your honey buns.
I was never a little, I'm not a. It wasn't my.
Not a huge fan of the Nutty Buddies personally. So if I'm voting one off the island, they got to go. But anyway, that's what Mr. Hunter was thinking about during the second half of this game, and
can't blame him.
And I think there were a lot of IU fans that would have done the same.
Yeah,
they were heading for the exits instead.
Yeah,
I get a feeling maybe a few people did the old come in off 37, walk in the building, and then walked right back out of the building.
That's the tough thing too, because it sounded like obviously Friday afternoon, getting down here from the northern reaches of the state. It sounded like 37 predictably was a freaking mess, and so I think a late arriving crowd walked in here and said, okay, well they'll get back in here, and certainly they never didn't. But yeah, this was a weird night.
Yeah, headed dinner earlier this night.
Yeah,
and certainly better things ahead, at least against Howard on Sunday.
Yeah,
I think.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope.
You'd think, yeah, you'd certainly hope. I'm pretty sure Howard is I think might actually be the lowest rated team on this schedule. I think it's Howard and
yeah,
I think it was anyway.
Yeah.
So
still no Colin Hartman on Sunday.
Oh, that's right.
Either.
Yeah, no. I mean, he's probably going to miss the Seton Hall game too. It sounds like that's going to be a 2-week recovery from him after he strained his groin in a practice on Friday. He was here. He was in street clothes. Obviously, just didn't participate in any warm-ups. And won't for at least the next couple of weeks. We'll kind of see how that goes. Getting into that Duke game at the end of the month, but
yeah, I think that's what you got to be looking at this point, is try to get him ready for that stretch they've got with Duke and Michigan and Iowa and Louisville and Notre Dame and that tough section there. I mean, that's what you've got to aim for at this point. I mean, wasn't for bad luck, that kid had no luck at all at this point.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, especially after being banged up with the ankle injury last month too. So yeah, guy can't catch a break. It's unfortunate for him, and obviously IU too. Although I'm not sure his presence alone would have done much to stem the tide in this one. Just a bad performance, bad game, bad basketball, basically in every way. But talking argument, it sounds like you can actually find some value maybe in getting some of your flaws exposed so early. Just kind of lays it out for everyone, saying, hey, you're not good, you got to work. There's a lot of work to be done, and we'll see in these next few weeks just where it goes.
Well, look, I mean, hey, the opener against Kansas last year, that didn't exactly portend where that season was going to go. Yeah. So there's no reason to just automatically assume that this indicates that this season's going to be an abject disaster. I mean, it might be, but it might not be either. Sometimes get waxed in that opener, get your attention. You get guys that thought they were working hard in the preseason, and they work a little harder, put a little more effort in, and never know where things might go.
Yeah. Well, you know where I went after that Kansas game? I went to the beach, and I had myself a beer, and I looked out at the ocean,
Well, we're going to do almost as well because we're going to go to Champaign tomorrow for football.
Pass the champagne, hold the Urbana,
Absolutely.
as our colleague Andy Graham used to like to say. Anyway, yeah, we got to get home. We got to get some sleep. We will see you in Champaign tomorrow afternoon. See you there.